This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
And then I do have another amendment to remove 7E. That application has not come in yet. I just met with the owner of Java Junction yesterday, and we went over some things, and he still has some things in order to get. So remove that one for now, too.
A 7E.
7E and 8A. Well, we're just moving 8A up.
Anything else? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda with corrections?
I'll second.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion's passed. All right, gentlemen.
If you just tap the button.
Is that how we do it, or how do you?
What's that?
This swearing in, do they need to read it? Swear to us that they're.
Yeah, I should probably read it and have them repeat after you.
Okay, then I'll
It's
get another
typically-
copy. Do you have another copy there? No, never mind. Oh, they have to repeat. Yeah, I do need a copy. Sorry.
Okay, let me grab one for you.
I guess Brian's gonna make me do it.
I don't use your pen. I don't.
Or do you wanna do it?
This show, so. I said,
Yeah,
"You
my
leave
sign
your
my
show,
life
so-"
away pen.
No,
Watches your title.
not for long.
Don't even.
I know what that hug was for.
Is that, yeah, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 9 more months.
I'm going to read this oath, gentlemen, as soon as he brings me a copy, and then you can repeat after me, and then we will have you sign it and turn them in, and we'll be good. Oh, yeah, you can do that. I'm Rich Meyerhofer. I think I met you.
Lindsay Rash, Vice President.
Well, I guess you get to use it if you want.
Dave Dolan.
I'm Sarah Durman.
Hi, I'm Tina Hosteyer.
Brian Howard.
I will not remember your names totally tonight. Give me a few meetings and.
Welcome to both of you.
Yeah, thank you
Brian.
for
Yeah, for jumping on.
volunteering.
You know my husband, right?
I send you money.
Yes.
Okay, I say aye, and then your name, please.
I, Terry Johnson,
You solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States,
Do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully the duties of the office of the Economic Development Authority of the City of Zumbrota, Minnesota.
and discharge faithfully the duties of the office of the Economic Development Authority of the City of Zumbrota, Minnesota,
To the best of my judgment and ability, so help me God.
to the best of my
judgment and ability, so help me God.
Thank you. Again, welcome. Brian should probably get a photo for the newspaper.
Or not.
Dylan, sorry.
Or Dylan in the photo.
Or Dylan in the photo, there you go. welcoming them.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
send it. It'll be fun.
Okay, moving on, approve the minutes from February 16th, 2022. Any additions or corrections?
Not that we believe, unless you can think of some, Miranda. You got any?
Is there a motion to approve?
Somebody did say something. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 16th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And I will abstain.
Will abstain.
Okay, monthly financial report and accounts payable.
Perhaps the smallest one we've seen as far as expenses coming out. I had to go check with Kim just because usually we even have, the signs that we paid Excel for the signage around town, but the way the month of February fell, it didn't show up here. Other than that, everything is, the two things are normal.
So was that finance seminar, that was the online one, right?
The one for the League of Minnesota
Yep.
Cities? I believe so, yep.
Is that,
And
can
that-
we get links so that these guys can be part of that? Is that still an ongoing thing?
Yeah, you probably will. You can probably still sign them up for it.
Yeah.
If they were interested.
Towards the end of last year, we took a finance seminar through the League of Minnesota Cities. It's Public Finance 101, so some of it's elementary, but it goes over a wide range of topics. I mean, I learned a few things when watching it too. It's a webinar, so you can, view it at your own leisure. So I'll try to find that and I'll email that out.
Just a thought, as
Yeah.
I see it come across. them.
Yep, it's a good idea. Okay,
I'll
any
make
other
a motion
questions?
to approve the financial report.
Motion's made, I will second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed. All right, old business, new business, the EDA annual report.
Let's go old business A, the election.
Oh.
We waited till you got back.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was getting that one mixed up with the swearing in here. Okay. We need to elect the officers for 2022.
I vote for them to stay there how they were in 2021.
Any objections to anybody?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to have this officers remain the same.
You just need to replace the vice treasurer. That was Dave Starr.
Background. So every year we annually appoint officials to hold positions, president, vice president, treasurer, vice treasurer. It came up in January where we were only at 5 members. So we decided to wait till we were a full commission before we voted in the members for this year. Because otherwise, when someone's not here, they usually get voted in. So we didn't want to vote you guys in on your first day.
So, do you want to go through who's in what position right now?
Sure. Rich is currently the president, Lindsay, the vice, Brian is treasurer, and then Dave was vice treasurer. And Dave's no longer with us, so we're looking for a vice treasurer.
So Sarah and I can't.
One of you guys needs to be the
I'll do
vice.
it. That's fine.
We're
Unless there's a great interest in my colleague across the aisle.
Mr. Dowling volunteered to be the assistant treasurer to fill
You
out
don't have to do
the
anything.
roster. Is that okay with your motion, Tina? Is that okay with your motion, Tina?
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second to, I believe, right? Who was
Brian, second, Sarah Brian.
to have the officers remain the same as this year with the addition of Mr. Dowling as assistant treasurer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right, now we can move on to the report.
Yeah. So gave you all a hard copy of the annual report too. I know you probably might have viewed it on your computer, which is oftentimes easier. And I wasn't sure how I wanted to go about presenting this because it's a lengthy document. So I decided to make a PowerPoint just summarizing some highlights. So every year I do an annual report of EDA activity. And yeah, this is hopefully going to simplify it a bit. I might be walking and talking, so maybe I'll take mine with me. So here's some of the things that are in the packet. Again, it's in your emails, but you also have it here if you want to look through it as we go through some things. So this is just more FYI, especially for the new members. The EDA here was created in 1988. It operates under the authority of the City Council. And what we do is work on economic development projects and offer recommendations towards council, work together with other boards and commissions, et cetera, just for development of the city. All right, so I kind of summarized it, but yeah, our goal is to improve the economic conditions of the city, aid in appropriate developments, and also create a higher tax base and quality of employment opportunities and quality of life for the residents here. I found this mission, which I don't believe we necessarily have a mission statement, but I kind of liked it. The mission of the Zumbrota EDA is to promote and coordinate the development and expansion of those special areas of economic activity, including but not limited to industry, commerce, housing, tourism, while maintaining a high quality of life for Zumbrota area residents. And if you're going through the packet, you'll see that I didn't put every section as its own slide. But next, I wanted to highlight something more applicable to the EDA in the business activity. So I just took some notable projects that took place in 2021. The total valuation of our larger residential, commercial, and industrial projects last year amounted to about $12.5 million, with most notable of those being obviously the apartment building at about 6.8. The schools did a couple $1 million worth of renovations. Zumbrota Ford constructed a new auto detail center out there in the business park, and flagship Chevy also acquired their own auto detail center. So also last year, the EDA was involved in a few development projects. There is an ongoing small cities development program project happening. It was initiated in 2014, it'll end in 2024. It basically, more details on your report, but it impacts housing, those in need in the community. And like I said, it'll expire in a couple of years, but that's still ongoing. Other than that, another notable one is obviously the apartment building was given a tax increment financed package in order to build. It's a 57 unit building over there. It was one of the reasons we got them to come to Zumbrota. You know, there's first large multifamily project in our area in quite some time. Another notable one was a more recent one. Our Independent Business Alliance recently came forth with an idea for a PA system for the downtown, and they were seeking some money to go towards that. So the EDA awarded them an up to $10,000 allotment towards that PA system, which we just met with them. Was that Tuesday? Was this Eda meeting? Yesterday? Feels more than that. And they're still seeking some other funding sources because it seems like the price keeps increasing. There's an update on that. Continuing it on, this is also in your packet. So the EDA has a revolving loan fund. We technically have two. One of them's our own city revolving loan fund, and another one is gifted to us from the state of Minnesota. But from our revolving loan fund, we had a year-end balance of $184,000, and then those are the three outstanding loans still to this day. The vet clinic, it's Main Street Rentals, and 281 Main Street. Also in...
Who's the Main Street Rentals? Why don't I recall that one?
Brenda?
Is that Brenda's?
Is it Flowers?
It's the flowers.
Yep.
What's the one after it?
281, isn't that Pete Lux?
The insurance? Is local one?
You did all
It's
this?
the Mayor Price building.
Oh, okay.
All right, so, yeah, and feel free to ask any questions as we go along. Also in 2021, the EDA returned, I called it a long dormant program, because the last file I had for it was quite some years ago, but just to recognize some new businesses, because one of my goals with one of the EDA's programs is to formalize a business retention and expansion program, you know, getting more involved with some of the businesses in the community. So one of the ways to do that is to recognize the new businesses that come to town. In total, and what we're aware of, we had 4 businesses, I'll call them brick and mortar businesses, come to town: the Greenstead, an engineering firm, the nutrition shop, and then the tattoo parlor opened up as well. So here's Dry Bones. We've been there a few times. It's Nick Sinclair's a nice guy. No, we told Brian he needs to
Go
get.
there without a tattoo.
We got to get the Zambroda logo on somewhere.
You want to do a cold push.
But a couple more businesses that will soon be recognizing are the new coffee place, Java Junction Cafe that opened up, Innocent Duck Games, and the Tranquility Barn, which I still want to get a tour of because I see them doing work on it constantly. All right, just for some miscellaneous EDA information, the EDA also sponsors a community brochure highlighting many of the features and listing businesses, all types of businesses. And we've even partnered with some of the state publications like Explore Minnesota, just to advertise in tourism. I should have brought one in. I have it right in my office. Could have gave you each one.
I don't know, you don't have any.
I just opened up a new box today because it was so nice today. I saw so many people stopping and going to the park. And, you know, we have the little boxes out there, and I thought we haven't, you know, in the wintertime, we don't stock it, keep it stocked. But today was the first day we went out there and put them in there.
So this is what is out at businesses being distributed.
Yeah.
I've already seen it and I've handed out.
Oh,
Good.
there you go.
I'd like you to our visitors.
We have more.
No, it's not.
We have an abundance of them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, cool little book. Some of the memberships that our EDA is involved with include, most recently, the Economic Development Association of Minnesota. We historically have been involved with them, but that lapsed for about a year or two until we just passed that. What was that, 2-3 months ago? The Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, Zambroda Area Arts Council. And then this is something else I've added too. I believe not necessarily the EDA, especially with this first example, but the city as a whole should be involved in some more nationally known organizations, including the American Planning Association and the Commercial Real Estate Development Association. And some of my reasoning for those I'll get into later because I have it on my action plan. But the last one is the Goodhue County GIS User Group, just so we can get our own tailored GIS with our own zoning map and utilities map. We kind of share one with the county as of now. We're one of the only cities left that isn't a part of this user group. But I left it on here because it has, you know, relevant impacts to economic development. All right, so under the umbrella of community development as a whole, I just wanted to highlight some of the changes that took place or changed last year. There's been a heavier emphasis on some marketing. I have it written out better here.
Page 6.
Page 6. I like, oh, yeah, there we go. So, I mean, new documents were created. Our city logo is only a couple of years old, and we still had a lot of documentation that looked older than that even. So everything from building permits to development applications, business subsidy applications. I almost recreated the business subsidy application and to just general city letterhead. In addition to the applications that were given to both Dave and Terry, our application for service to city boards and commissions. Other than that, some zoning changes. There was an increased role for the building official. One of the things historically that happened here was something like when building permits came in, it would come to my office where I would check zoning aspects of the building permit and fill it out. And then I'd hand it off to the building official, who's a licensed building official, and they would check some of the building plans as well as the zoning. So there was a little bit of a redundancy there of two eyes checking the same thing. And I'm not a building official, so I prefer them, and it made sense for them. They also do it for other communities. So it was one of those things that worked real well together, just giving them a little bit of an increased role.
Yeah, I just want to add that we did that partially because we're trying to free up more time for Dylan to work on these economic development initiatives. He's got lots of ideas and limited time, so we took that off his plate, and we're going to work on some more of that too. Get to know those people.
Yeah, it's a good deal. I also involved them more in some of the zoning ordinances as well, because if they're more hands-on with some of the zoning stuff, they can interpret some of the ordinances better. I mean, I put it in the packet, but we have a lot of, I'll call it gray area in our zoning ordinances, believe it or not. But it's in working with them closer, it's easier to translate that out into something that's more tangible. But another one of the changes that can have an impact on the EDA is the city introduced for the first time a mobile application. And Miranda didn't know she was going to talk tonight, but here, Miranda, tell us about the Goes and Broda.
You're in it.
Yeah, we have an app, guys.
I needed to drink some water.
Sure. What do you want to know? We have an app.
What does it do? Tell us
So if you
about.
don't have it on your smartphone, get it.
So yeah, the app.
Is that when we get notifications?
Yeah, so I push out
Got it.
notifications, so if you don't want the app or you don't have a smartphone, you
There's a lot
can
of
sign up
takes
to get
all
email
over.
notifications instead.
Wow.
Do you guys do it?
I don't. I
Look at
should
you
probably
getting
have
ideas.
it.
Yeah, and I think you've done a really good job of putting this out on Facebook and our other areas so people can, and it wasn't like once, like, thank you for continuing to put it out there so people are like, oh, maybe this time I'll do it.
Pretty soon you'll see these
Window plates.
Nice, nice.
Nobody has an excuse not to have it.
I
'cause
could
run
take
the
some and
app.
put them on the bar counter.
You should have Stu give this a try.
Well, nobody has an excuse not to have it because I run the app and I have it on my phone.
Goes and Broda? You got
Yeah.
it?
Yep.
Yeah, got it.
It's loading now.
Look at you.
I need more.
Drives me crazy. Couldn't scan a QR code yesterday.
I don't like to
Downright
see
took a
bubbles
picture.
on my.
Oh,
I
like
know.
Stu.
Like-
Not take
He doesn't
pictures.
have a clue. There's like a little notification bubble that, like, little red dot on the app that says you have a notification, and I go there and I've read them all. How do I get rid of that little bubble? Because I can't. Do you go to the notification tab? I do. And I check on, I click all of them to get rid of the little red bubble, but it doesn't go away. Is yours still there
Yep,
too,
I
Brian?
just clicked on it, and so maybe
You
I
guys
have to
have
click on
iPhones?
all of them.
We were having data issues last week, so I'll print out the bubble.
So I wrote in the annual report that the Goes and Broda app is an additional tool to reach residents. People who download it can stay up to date with the most recent news from City Hall, Public Works, and the Police Department. And everything from relevant news to advertise on the app includes items like road closures, main breaks, local events, and more. So I gave you your slogan for the app there.
And more.
And more. Yep. Last thing on this page is more updates to the city website. Our website's gone through some updates over the past recent years, but we're just constantly trying to make it more user-friendly and get the relevant information in front of people when they visit it. All right, the last part of the annual report encompasses the Planning Commission. For those that don't know, the Planning Commission is a 7-member body also appointed by council, and its duty is to aid the city council in land use decisions. This starts the report I just did last week for them. I decided to present to them too because I feel like they get left out on some of these fun stuff. I didn't cover the whole topic of the Planning Commission part of the packet, but I think there's some interesting aspects within it. And so I wanted to share first our building permit summary. So, if this is too small, feel free to look at it on your paper. But I just want to point out that we've seen the highest number of new builds in the history of this report. We had almost 40. If Dave wouldn't have pulled his permit, we would have had 40 even.
It's all my fault.
but it's just interesting data because, you know, you could see the trajectory of the town going back from 2014 to 2021, where we've gone. And then another interesting thing that we all know is you see the average price to build a home there compared to there. And I'll touch on that more later because I did that math because I was just curious. Another notable thing to think about is 2020 to 2021, just some of the difference in commercial and industrial. You know, there's some context that needs to be made with that. You know, a lot of it comes down to the pandemic stimulus, the CARES Act funds. I mean, $20 million, $23 million of that 51 is from the school who put in their permit a couple of days before the end of 2020, and it was worked on in 2021. So I have a note in there later to make me feel better about myself that a majority of the monetary improvement in 2020 did take place in 2021 just due to the timing, but we'll credit it to that for accounting purposes. So they can have that for now. But anyways, leave out the outlier there. You can also see in the commercial and industrial sector, you know, the numbers slowly go up. The numbers slowly go up. You know, we're seeing more projects and more value in the town than ever before. And this is a reflection straight from our building permits. The next one is subdivision information. I just wanted to highlight some of the, you know, that housing number on the last page was $16 million worth of housing development, single family homes. So this is some of the reasoning behind that. Some of the numbers I want to point out here are first, Zumbrota is basically 80% full in new developments, but that number is even lower than I thought it was going to be. So what I did was, and Mike helped me out, we drove around town and looked at lots because Google Maps and everything can't show you a new house that was built a couple months ago. You know, it doesn't update online. So we took a couple of days to drive around town to each one of these. But some noticeable things are, if you look at the Zumbro Woodlands and the second part 2, that one hasn't even started really getting developed yet. There's some homes on one stretch of the Woodlands is down by Quick Trip, if you're not familiar, Jefferson. So that one's real hurting the overall average. But other than that, you can see a lot of these places, even some of the newer additions, take the Highlands Fifth, they're already almost 100% full. Another fun thing to consider, and I'm glad I brought Mike with because he told me some stories about some of the empty lots. They're purchased a long time ago and no one's just built. So, you know, a lot of signs in context points to the average, this percentage being lower than what it actually is. You can go on the MLS right now and see how many of these are for sale. It's counted on one hand. So it's more like we're 90-some% full.
There's no wire hopper additions in there.
I said new. Oh,
Get off the EDA all more time.
We have something on council tomorrow in the Meyerhofer edition. They want to consolidate some lots down there.
Really?
Yep.
Don't they have to ask me?
Yeah, I should have told them to. I should have. That one was a head scratcher. But just for one of the last things I'll touch on is kind of like I was saying, when I was looking into a lot of the research and all the data, there's some notable trends and findings. So I made its own page just because I want to share it with people so I don't have it all to myself. But in 2019, the average price to build a new single family home was $186,000. 2020, it was $226,000. 2021, it was $276,000. So that's an interesting tidbit to me. I mean, in 2 years, the average price to build a home increased 44%. That's just shocking. Yeah, as we're all well aware. I also did put that, I'm on page 12 in the report. I put the note that a large portion of the commercial industrial value of 2020 took place in 2021. And I know that because I worked on it. But, you know, and I said the reasons stem from time of permitting to the scope of projects. You know, especially when you get a $20 million project, you don't turn it around in a day. It's 6 months. So there's some things like that. Some reasoning for the bump up in commercial industrial value in 2020 are due to the economic downturns and resulting stimulus influxes combined with trends of deurbanization. Those are all key factors for greater Minnesota as a whole, especially those cities that are on major transit highways. So we'll see growth because of pandemics, as where some smaller municipalities that are more landlocked might not see the same amount of growth. In 2019, a market study by Maxfield Research and Consulting, it was actually at the end of 2019. I wish they would have waited like 3 months and then they could have had a whole new set of data because of the pandemic. But so Maxfield Research and Consulting, the average household size in Goodhue County was 2.47 people, so 2.5 people. You know, if you take Zambrota's 3-year average of about 36 new homes times that average household size, that math suggests that in 10 years, Zambrota will see a increase in population of 900 just from new build single family alone. You know what I mean? So if you talk about people moving here, not everybody moves to a brand new home. And I touch on that in the next one because it doesn't factor in the 57 unit apartment complex. The more than likelihood of another larger apartment complex. It also doesn't take in data of mobile homes, high density residential projects like we have one that we're working on and things of that nature. So you factor in multifamily, single family, Zambroda could be at a 5,000 in 10, 12 years for sure, which is an interesting thing to look at. You know, we're not too far away from the big 5000.
Funding.
So another interesting thing I found was the U.S. Census Bureau reported that 176 housing permits were issued in 2020 in Goodhue County. You know, if you just take the average from Zambroda in that time, we're responsible for about 20% of new houses in the county as a whole. So that's another, you know, reason why we're growing. It's a lot of the data has proven that too. And then these are just more so, I'll call them interesting tidbits. The percentage completion of Zambrota's housing stock, it's increased demand for a variety of new developments because, I'll just read the next one. So rising prices in the real estate market poses an equity threat to existing housing stock, and it'll create a larger need for affordability. So, you know, with the real estate market kind of going crazy and going up and up and up, and we build more new homes than we do multifamily, which is common in small municipalities or, you know, greater Minnesota cities. There's going to be a focus on affordable housing, or at least different types of housing. You know, higher density residential is a solution to that. More multifamily is a solution to that. Because as you grow, not everybody can go afford a house in Charleston or the Highlands, or, you know, especially if someone's coming new. That'll also an increased initiative on, for sure, different types of housing, but at the hopefully affordable housing will also help the local economy with workforce development. I mean, you know, it goes on and on and on. So those are some of my interesting trends and findings. And the last one is just a cheesy one. I wanted to thank everybody for their time serving on the EDA. You know, Miranda's laughing at me, so I'm laughing. But I wanted to, you know, take a moment to say, you know, a lot of this happens, and I said this to the Planning Commission too. You know, we're on a growth trajectory, and things are looking up, and things are getting bigger, or more people, and it's because of these boards and commissions. So I just wanted to give everybody a thank you. That didn't go as short as I thought it would. Maybe I should have just read the report.
Okay, do we need to make any kind of a action on that, or is it just information?
Not that one, no.
We don't need to approve it?
No.
All right. Any questions on that report?
I appreciate your time to put in to order that all together. It's probably one of the most comprehensive ones we've seen in quite some time.
All right, moving on to new business B, the 2022 action plan.
Yeah, so that's the next portion of the packet. And I've said this before, but one of the things I wanted to change with the action plan is actually put actionable items in the action plan. You know, childcare has been number one on our EDA action plan going back as far as the middle, you know, 2010s. And the reason it stays number one is because it's, to be honest, it's not a problem that just us as a city can solve. You know, it's collaboration with nonprofits, the county, the state, if possible. It's one of those things. So what I did was I left it at number one because of its importance, but I tried putting some actionable items under it, something that can be attained in 12 months. You know, because what I want to do for something that's so large, like a childcare crisis across the entire state, is at least put 1 foot forward each year and see where we get in the future. Because you're not going to solve, unless somebody wants to be an anonymous donor for a couple $1 million for a childcare center, you know, we're not going to solve it overnight type of thing. So I'll I don't know if I should read this, or maybe you guys want to read through number 1 and then I'll go to number 2.
I don't care. I guess I've read it. Has everybody had a chance to read it? We don't need to have
Sure.
it read to us, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe, does anybody have any questions on goal 1 or concerns? If not, we'll let you move to goal 2 then.
Yeah, maybe I'll just explain my reasoning. So one of the things I think can be done in 12 months is seeing who has childcare capabilities within town, which might be hard because if, in home, or maybe they're not, and not everybody might, I don't know how to access people who are licensed, so I have to do some digging to find out this type of stuff. But if I can get an inventory of our childcare capabilities, then I can survey them on their needs, their outlooks, what do they want, what do they need, what can potentially we do with them or do for them. And then if I can find childcare organizations and then try to bridge those gaps, if Smith, for example, remember when they came and presented for us, they said like an Andrew Johnson.
That was super interesting.
Yeah.
They did like a co-op in that one time.
Yeah.
Where all these private home daycares came together, and they have a co-op now, so they have a building, they have backup, they have shared resources, and it's cheaper for them to have it outside of their home than it is to have, do everything by yourself. So that was really cool. And I don't know if anyone thinks of that, so it would be a cool thing to talk to them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my thought.
What the gap is?
No, I mean, there's little data even at the county.
They need childcare that can't find it.
We lost 2 this year, and your wife's gonna be done soon.
I know, she's gonna contribute to this. I told her it's my job to fix it.
I mean, there's just so many going out.
She had a taste of it when she took the summer off.
Maybe get a list of licenses
Can you?
through the Goodie County licenses.
See, I reached out to Health and Human Services Department. Oh.
Yeah, I can get you some information.
But my whole goal is just to get an inventory of not only who and how many houses, but their capabilities, their opinions, what they need, and then try to match it up with the Smith, for example, and try to be a, middleman, bridge those gaps together in that capacity. And then maybe we can make some headway on our big goal by doing something like that. But moving on to the second one. So I put, due to the growth of the city, more amenities and life cycle requirements will need to be filled. So this one bumped up, I believe it was number 3 as recent as 2019, but I moved it to number 2 just because of the growth. Housing's, what I've seen in the past few years, housing has been at the forefront in the top 3 or 4, however many goals the EDA or, the person in charge has for the EDA in any given year. But we've seen an influx, as you saw in the building permit report, of more houses in the past 3 years than the previous 8 combined, something like that. So the way I put it is this: the private sector will do a phenomenal job in building new houses. We have little input from the EDA's perspective. The Planning Commission approves plans of new subdivisions, but it's good on its own. What needs help is some more of the amenities and the life cycle requirements by helping new commercial get here, because we talked in that work session the other month, that was probably like 6 months ago now, but the goal would be more industrial players in town just because of the increase in tax base and the aid that it brings to the residents in that capacity. But one of the ways you can get that is by bringing commercial more first, because in order to attract a new tenant to the city, you need places for the people to live, or you need a high unemployment rate, which we do not. Ours is sub 3 of people unemployed. So what we need is what's called unique visitors to the town, or people who aren't from here, not native, people from Zumbrota. So the way to do that is housing. That's doing phenomenal by its own. But then amenities, because what attracts people to Zumbrota outside of a XYZ job here, as opposed to Pine Island or Lake City, some of our regional competitors, and I say competitors because we're all competing for residents. Nobody wants to have a decrease in population. We want an increase. And so aiding the commercial and industrial sector via amenities, everything from the campground remodel to a lot of it can fall under that. But so I moved that to the forefront because that could use help. Like I said, the private sector can handle single-family homes. We don't need to go out there and be developers or by any means, but let me just read over this. Under that umbrella, I touched on the business retention and expansion program. That's, there's reasons also why I moved it up to number 2, because there's a lot more EDA that can be happening in town that, not just historically here, but historically in greater Minnesota gets thrown to the wayside. And the way I'll describe that is economic development in greater Minnesota is not a reactive industry. I get building permits almost daily and I have to react to them. Those are planning. But economic development, you have to be proactive in order to get work and then be reactive. And so that's easy to push aside when, small municipalities wear a lot of hats. So I moved that up, just, we saw some of that in the past year too. So then I moved housing to number 3, because kind of like I said at the end of the trends and findings slide, it's not a crisis situation by any means yet, but starting the groundwork for different types of housing, affordable housing is going to be at the forefront. And there are certain, Three Rivers is a phenomenal nonprofit community action program, and they deal a lot with housing. So even something like establishing some sort of network with them just to work on any type of housing venture. Kim recently, Kim's our financial director here. Kim recently, volunteer with Habitat, and Habitat's building a house in Pine Island, things like that. There's things that the cities can do to aid certain topics where the private sector won't necessarily do it for themselves. Lastly, the last goal I should say is community development department as a whole. So I just put training and development. So, we saw that we re-enrolled in the Economic Development Association of Minnesota. Like I said earlier, I think someone from the city should be involved in the American Planning Association. That one's more of an individual. We can't all join it unless we want to. It's a couple $100 each, but you know what I mean? There's more information out there, and there's more networking opportunities, and there's more to learn about other cities that are doing well or not, and things to learn from that. I think that's a huge goal for me personally, is just to be involved more with the industry that we're in order to bring it back to you guys and share all the fun stories that I learned. That's the summary. I wrote it way more formally. But this one can be motioned on if you approve it or not.
Okay, any other discussion or further questions before we move to approve this action plan?
I would make one additional to the community, like to your training and development, and networking. And that's truly, Dylan, why we sought out CETA, is because this position is part of a network, and to really understand how, other rural communities similar to ours are utilizing the resources, how they want to do this town. So I think somewhere in that is your internal built network that you are learning as you join that organization as well.
I agree. So from CETA, I see the emails. There's people, this was a couple weeks ago, they were talking about how, fun the Economic Development Association meeting was. They have a summer conference and a winter conference, and they were discussing topics, and I was like, I didn't even know it happened. You know what I mean? So I was like, it's a missed opportunity. There is one coming up in June I'll probably bring before us a couple months in advance, because it's like $200 or $300 for a 3-day but things like that happen once or twice a year would be advantageous for just the knowledge base here. If we all want to go, we can, but it's in Nisswa is where it's at, the Grandview Lodge too. So that's, what are you going to do, mess that up?
Do I have to go to the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, further comments, concerns? If not, is there a motion to approve the 2022 action plan?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's passed. And then thank you again for putting this together too, Dylan.
Yes.
Good work. Okay, moving on to C, the Zoom robotics request for assistance.
Yeah, so this one I just got on my desk just the other day, I think late last week. So the high school has a robotics team that I learned for the first time. And what they're doing is they're asking for sponsors and donations for their upcoming season. I've listed out there some of their donation tiers. And what they did was they asked the city if anybody would consider, sponsoring or donating to their team. I believe you get your name or logo on their shirt. So I just wanted to bring that before the EDA. It's $100, $250, and $500. And all of them, from what the letter sounded like, you get your name or your logo on their shirt. I'm sure it just increases in size depending on the size of the donation. So just something to consider.
Just devil's advocate, why do they need to search out funding? If this is a school-sponsored program, why isn't school-sponsored funding?
That's a great question.
Let's lead the way. And
Every
Do what?
school sport wants outside funding. So they can have more control over what they spend their money on. In school, you have to be pretty specific.
We should do that too.
maybe they provide the space. I saw them all in there last night. But like the track team, they don't sponsor not one single track.
To what one?
To the track team.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I always see, like the high school football team.
Is the trap team a sponsored activity? The school, it is, it's high school league, isn't it? How can they have it and not sponsor it?
It's a great question.
You should get back on that board.
Well. Anyway, that's my concern is that a school-sponsored activity should have to come in, all the activities have fundraisers. That's one thing. But to come with hat in hand, basically begging so that you can have a program, which my understanding the first year was very successful. And that's, the value of the program is not my question here, but that's just kind of my feeling.
That was my question is, do we have who do we sponsor and who do we?
Yeah, are we setting a precedence here?
I thought we had some restrictions
I
on,
was going to say that same thing.
yeah. on
Because
who
we can't give money to
And see, we did
Ziva.
a year ago or whatever, last summer, we gave money to the choir. But that was something that they earned, wasn't it? It was for parking?
That was from Covered Bridge Festival.
That was from water bottles.
They sold?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just so I remember that conversation, especially the Ziba one, is it, we can donate to 501c3s or we cannot? I can't remember either.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was entirely correct that we can't give money to Zebra because they are a 501c3.
And the robotics team says that they are as well.
It has to be for a specific, it has to be like a receivable item or something like that.
Sure.
Like they can turn in a receipt and ask for reimbursement, but we can't just
Mm.
write them a check for.
That's what we did for Ziba too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
But I think the argument of here, well, does the EDA go out and buy a softball card then?
Yeah.
Or does it-
Well, we can have it serve as a PSA, if you or any business in town, wants to help the kids out, I guess. We could do it
we
that way.
also received this letter as
Did you?
from Countryside, so.
Oh.
You can have your logos on their shirt or?
It's so hard for me to donate to school things because you have a bar on your, I'm just, if I donate, I'm just gonna say, don't put my name on your shirt. I just find, it'd be different if we had food, but we don't, it just seems kind of
Yeah.
inappropriate for.
$100, because for a lot of reasons is, one of the things that's really tough for manufacturing is recruiting people with technical skill set, going to trade schools, things like this. So to us, this is promoting something that there's a big gap out there. It's not just in Zumbrota, the state of Minnesota. And I was on the Economic Development Board of Michigan, and was statewide there. And we were looking at ways, how do you get people engaged in the trades? And we were discussing ways we could reach out even into the middle schools and things like that. It wasn't gonna solve today, but you gotta start building on it. And so having a program like this, and we have robotics in our plant, you know, to me, it was easy for us to say this is something to support. Yeah. But you gotta think about it, it's getting people's interest in something that people aren't interested in so much.
Promoting
Had a great time last night in that shop, so I don't know.
That the industry needs really bad.
Well, and
But yes, less so bringing
We're
it to
gonna
the
screw about
EDA and us, but yeah, more so, like you said, getting the information out there for several of us are business owners or, you know, somebody that could
Yep.
potentially donate, so.
Or you just have a charitable heart. Isn't that right, Rich?
I can't hear you. What?
What? So much money, you don't know what to do with it, so you're good.
Anyway.
Oh, Rich.
Moving on.
You're probably
So what
counting
did
down
we
the
decide we're
days.
gonna do? You said a lot there, just a minute. I mean, are we
Oh.
not doing anything with this? You're just giving this for information? We should just basically, I'm not sure it's EDA's responsibility to support this kind of endeavor. You as a business, yes, when they come to you, it serves your benefit and it benefits your business to have an increase in this type of programs. And again, I agree. I think it's a wonderful program and we really should encourage it, but I don't know that as an EDA, we should be using our money for that type of program. Maybe we can be the conduit, like you said, to get it out to the
So
business.
maybe that's what our role is, the conduit, to get it out in front of people.
See, I envision, you know, there's some cities, albeit a little bit larger, that have their own EDA website. This would be one of those things where at that point in time, we can put PSAs out there, you know, on behalf of the community in that way. And that's kind of what I thought of it as.
And I'm thinking as I'm listening here too, but you know, there again, are we setting a precedence even by doing that? Because, okay, you know what? The cemetery needs money. Or should we have the city then promote the cemetery? Or would an individual church be off limits? You know what I mean?
I 100% agree.
You can keep getting more and more. And again, they're
Yeah,
probably all really good programs and need the funds.
I think at that point, you know, it'd be first come, first serve. I would do it for everybody who asked as long as the time is available. But if we get 100 requests a month,
Yeah.
you know, then it'd probably just be first come, first serve. But until yeah.
I just see it as, you know, it's city money that we're handling and in this perspective, the focus is very, very small. So this, for me, would be I would just decline and say, you know, I will definitely spread the word to other people or businesses, but.
And so touching on the other reason why an EDA can promote fundraisers is it's a marketing thing. You know, people can say that they saw XYZ event or XYZ fundraiser or this information or that information from the EDA, or you're going to subconsciously seeing, you know, an EDA logo next to an event or, you know, things like that. It's more ways to get us out there too, you know, coupling together. But I agree. I just think we're a long ways away from having to be overwhelmed or overloaded with, you know, requests of this and that. But I agree that the EDA probably shouldn't do this because how many sports teams are there? And all of a sudden every year we're giving out a couple thousand. Choir, Girl Scouts.
Baseball's gonna come here soon.
Softball.
Well, the choir, they already got, was it the choir?
Choir's heading out to Nashville today.
That was where they got $120 of the water money. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying, Dylan, that we should support this because we're not really being inundated, or we should just encourage it and say, we'll get the word out, but we're not gonna give you any money?
Correct.
Okay. Is everybody else in agreement with that? Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, moving on.
This one might be the same then too. So this one's a PSA for, so the community trust sponsors the flower pots that you see, you know, downtown on the main street. It's like every other light pole, I
That
think.
to me is that helps economic development,
That's-
having
that-
a beautiful
yeah, I
I
agree.
didn't know
downtown.
that they actually.
It used to be the Rotary Club that did it, I think.
The Rotary did it for a number of years and then the Rotary disbanded.
It's been the foundation. The foundation has been a donor specific for the baskets to the foundation.
Okay,
But
but
that
that,
is kind of dried up, it's not gonna be as much anymore, so
Okay.
they are worried they're gonna run out of funds for that, so. Then the business owners are gonna sponsor baskets downtown if they want to. And then the other request came to, where the DDA could do anything, on a yearly basis, contribution.
and how much, I can't remember how.
So yeah, what, the information we got was 70. Zebo is advertising this $75, so it's,
That's not the request though, it's.
And if that's not a 2022 number, I could go up.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Well, the other thing, it sounds like, is it sounds like they have
Yeah.
a lot of, or most of the money or something this year, but going forward, they're used to having money to be years in advance. Is that correct, Brian? Is that the way you interpreted it?
Yeah, the donor would donate enough money every year to do all 22 baskets, was it? Is that so?
Yeah, 22, so it says.
22?
So you got the-
22
I
at
copied it.
$70 a piece.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if we wanted to do this to help out, we could say we're gonna buy 5 baskets or whatever. And then we could say that every year we're gonna buy 5 baskets,
And
or whatever the number is, but
just for the good of the order, the trust is kicking money into this as well. They're not looking for this to be paid for completely. They're looking for a partnership.
Partnerships,
They'll make
yeah.
the trust money last longer.
Exactly.
It's gonna come in not just at the level that it was.
right.
So they like a partnership on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Do you know how many baskets are specific to our city buildings or structures?
Are we included in this 22 number? Do you
I
know?
think there's 2 of them out here.
Yeah, we got one up front of Farmingdale, and I think there's one up over by the library, but I don't think any of these streetlights have that.
2. And then we're thinking about maybe a couple of sponsoring our own basket for out here to kind of, we'd love to see this whole street working, but that'll be an individual thing.
I mean, that's a way to do it where, so it's not a monetary amount, but saying we'll commit to buying,
Yeah.
helping you out by, doing however many number of baskets we feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
Specific to our property, because that would be an easy number to come up with. Yeah,
But there's,
where are you?
ad in the paper today, the Zumbrota paper, the Pine Island's looking for donations for their baskets from people, just anybody. They're begging the constituents, but theirs are $58. Oh, I know, they were. But
I don't think, what I'm saying is I don't think we want it to end, because I think it really does add something to the downtown. I think it makes it quaint and pretty and,
Yeah.
Who pays for the maintenance on them?
We, city staff,
They're out there watering them, I see them.
we drive around on the new side by side.
Yeah.
Water takes it back.
Usually 5, 6 o'clock in the morning.
So, you think it's probably 5 or 6?
Oh,
Of city buildings, where do you get the?
my supplier can't
Then
make
I think
them.
it's only 2.
We tried it
So I
one
think we
year.
just have the one
It's
out
terrible.
front here. So
Yeah.
the light pole,
We
and I
can't,
think there's at least
they
one
can't,
over by
there's
the
something with
building.
shipping. They just, they're from Red Wing.
There isn't any other ones, are there?
Hallstrom's is what I'm thinking of, but I don't know if that's the right
Or
word.
light
I don't know
poles,
where they get
you
it.
know.
Okay, what if we want to come up with a number of the ones that we'd like to sponsor? I mean, do we want to go 10? Is that too high?
Where's the money, what account will the money come out of?
Promotional and expenses budget, which is $6,400 a year.
How much have we already spent of that this year or planning to spend this year?
A couple hundred in postage, and I don't believe it'll go over 1,000. I'll double check on that. I'll see if there's any things coming up.
And is that what our books come out of, so
That's what,
next year?
yeah.
Pretty much 50% of their flowers.
Yep, that'd be $700, but it's,
If you did 7, then you're kind of splitting it. Foundation, businesses, EDA.
third.
7? Okay.
It's like $500.
I'll make a motion that we contributed to the trust cost of 7 baskets for the 2022 summer season.
I second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Are we going to say every year? Do we want to add that onto the motion? Like, or is this specific to 2022? Or are we going to say going forward?
As they say, you can't tie future board hands. I don't know if you could necessarily. Hey, you wanted me in this position.
Yes, I did.
No. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what did you say, sir?
Oh, I don't know, I didn't hear.
So renew it every year.
Do we want,
Well, I'm just thinking like if we're gonna try and make it an ongoing thing, then obviously we'll make sure we budget for it going forward and just make sure that 7 baskets is in there till they quit or we
I
quit.
think we should
Plan for it.
plan for it, budget for it, but make it an annual request.
We got a motion and a second.
That motion?
Staying with my second.
Got it.
you just added it?
Yes.
You don't need an amendment? No official rulings?
They're
No,
just
because I
amending
would
that
say
motion.
She's trying to be nice to
budgeting.
So actually, we wouldn't even have to be here. You could just like make up a meeting the whole time. You sit back there and type what you want.
She's.
Okay, motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's passed.
I should abstain from that.
Oh, because
You're good.
Okay.
Oh, we should have asked you, do you think that's a good thing, what we just did?
Yeah, I
You're
think it's a
on-
very good thing.
Okay, is that enough? Is it
Yeah,
too
is it
much? Is
fair?
it too little? Is it?
It's just right.
Okay.
I'm the vice president of the trust. I'm
Okay.
observing the
You just
conversation.
Forgot
Yeah,
that.
you just
told me
keep
that
quiet
right
over there.
before.
I said-
Remember anything.
I said it was partnership.
Anything else for the good of the group? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Forgot to welcome the new members.
I felt well.